Thanksgiving is supposed to bring people together, right? Good food, warm conversations, maybe a little chaos from too many people talking over each other, but mostly love. At least, that's what I always imagined it should be. I wouldn't say I grew up in a Hallmark family, but I used to believe we could fake it just enough to make it through the holidays. That belief ended this year. My name's Jacob. I'm 36 years old, a single dad, and the proud father of a sweet, artistic, and sometimes painfully shy little girl named Mia. She just turned 9, and she's the light of my life. Mia isn't biologically mine. I adopted her 5 years ago after fostering her for almost a year. Her birth mom, my ex-fiancée, struggled with addiction and ended up voluntarily giving up her rights. I was barely 30, single, and terrified, but I never hesitated. The moment I held her and saw how her tiny fingers curled around mine like I was her whole world, I knew there was no going back. I became her dad in every way that mattered. Papers or no papers, blood or not. I loved her. And I still do. More than anything. Most of my friends supported me when I adopted her. Some of my extended family too. But my brother, Aaron? He never really did. He'd never say it outright, of course. That's not how Aaron works. He's the kind of guy who wraps cruelty in a joke, who whispers a dig behind a chuckle, then looks shocked when you call it what it is. I was just messing around, he'll say. You're too sensitive. Aaron's 2 years younger than me. Married his high school sweetheart, Melanie. They have 3 kids, ages 10, 7, and 5, and they are what my mom calls her legacy. My parents fawn over them like royalty. Every year they get matching outfits, grand birthday parties, and thousands of dollars worth of Christmas gifts. Meanwhile, Mia gets maybe a doll, some off-brand coloring pencils, and an awkward side hug from my mom if she remembers. But I always let it slide. I told myself it didn't matter. That Mia had me. That I'd fill in the gaps. That she didn't need their validation as long as she had my love. But deep down, it chipped away at something in me. It's hard not to notice the way your daughter's smile flickers when her cousins get to open new iPads while she unwraps a make-your-own bead jewelry kit from the dollar store. It's hard not to feel your stomach twist when your own mother says, you know, it's different when they're your real grandchildren. Still, every Thanksgiving, I'd show up, smile, bring my homemade stuffing, help clean dishes, try to be the bigger person. For Mia's sake, I wanted her to believe in family, even if I didn't fully anymore. But this year, Aaron crossed a line I can't uncross. And I'm not sure there's coming back from what happened next. It started off predictably enough. Thanksgiving dinner at my parents' house. My mom insisted on hosting, as always. A massive spread, turkey, ham, green bean casserole, 5 different pies, you name it. Mia wore her favorite yellow dress, the one with little embroidered flowers along the hem. She'd helped me bake pumpkin muffins that morning and was so proud of herself she insisted on carrying the tray in herself. My mom barely glanced at her when she handed them over. Just said, oh, muffins. How cute. Then turned back to fussing over Aaron's youngest, who was screaming because he didn't want to wear his sweater. Dinner itself was a mess of overlapping conversations. My dad made his usual stale jokes. My mom complained about how much work she'd done while simultaneously refusing all offers of help. Aaron talked way too loudly about the new pool he's having installed, making sure everyone heard how much it cost. Melanie kept taking photos of the table for Instagram, carefully cropping Mia out every time she leaned in. I was used to all that. I've learned to tune it out. But then, just as the pie was being served, Mia leaned toward her cousin Ava and said, I'm really excited for Christmas this year. I hope Grandma will come to my recital. Aaron didn't even look up from his fork when he said it. He just smirked, nudged his oldest, and muttered loud enough for the whole table to hear. Only real grandkids get presents from Grandma. The room fell quiet for half a second, just long enough for my heart to drop. Mia blinked, her smile fading as she looked at me with that confused, wounded expression that made something deep in my chest twist and burn. My mom said nothing. My dad kept chewing. Melanie glanced at Aaron and gave him this smug little smile. And that's when I realized, this wasn't a slip. This wasn't just a bad joke. This was who they were. I forced a laugh, leaned over, and kissed Mia's forehead. That's all right, sweetheart, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. We'll make our own traditions. And then I stood up, took Mia's hand, and walked out. Left my pumpkin pie untouched. Left their fake smiles behind. I could feel their eyes on my back as I grabbed our coats. Could hear my mom's voice faintly say, "Oh, come on, Jacob, don't be so dramatic." But I didn't look back. That night, as I tucked Mia into bed, she asked me in a quiet voice, "Daddy, am I really not part of the family?" I didn't cry. I wanted to, but I didn't. I just pulled her close and whispered, "You are my family, and that's all that matters." But the thing is, it wasn't all that mattered. Not anymore. Because the next morning, I woke up and booked 2 tickets. First class, Paris, Eiffel Tower dinner reservation. Private suite overlooking the Seine. Total cost? Just over $18,000. But the look on Mia's face when I told her we were going to spend her birthday in the most magical city in the world? Priceless. We left 2 days later. I didn't post about it. Didn't tell anyone. But of course, people talk. My cousin saw us at the airport and mentioned it in the family group chat. And that's when the phone calls started. Missed calls from my mom. Angry texts from Aaron. A voicemail from my dad telling me I was starting drama for no reason. Then came the call. The one that really set things in motion. Aaron's voice, loud and furious through the speaker. "Why didn't you invite us? The kids would have loved Paris." I waited a beat before I answered. Calm. Measured. Just 4 words. "Because you're not family." And then I hung up. That was 2 days ago. I haven't spoken to them since. But I've seen the storm brewing online. Melanie's been posting cryptic quotes about forgiving betrayal and fake people. My mom left a comment on one of my cousin's photos saying she hopes the family can heal one day for the real kids' sake. Aaron's blocked me completely. But I'm not worried about them right now. Mia's birthday is tomorrow. She's asleep beside me as I write this, her small hand curled around mine. A soft smile still lingering on her lips after our boat ride along the Seine. They try to make her feel like an outsider. Like less. Like she didn't belong. But I'm about to show her, that she's worth the world. And they're about to learn what happens when you mess with a father who's had enough. It started with silence. That eerie kind of silence that settles in when people don't know how to apologize, so they pretend nothing happened instead. After we got back from Paris, I expected a storm. Or at least a sharp crack of confrontation. But for the first week, everything was quiet. No calls. No texts. Not even a passive-aggressive Facebook tag. I figured they were still fuming from being left out of our trip, Aaron especially. He's the kind of guy who doesn't mind hurting people as long as he's in control. But once you take that control away from him, once you deny him something he thinks he's entitled to, that's when he loses it. So I braced myself. I thought that would be the breaking point. But I was wrong. That was just the wind picking up before the storm hit. The first crack came 2 weeks later. It was a Saturday morning, and I was helping Mia paint a birdhouse on the porch. She was wearing one of my old flannels, sleeves rolled up, dabbing little sunflowers along the roof with this quiet concentration I've always admired in her. Then my phone buzzed. "Mom, just a reminder, family Christmas Eve dinner is at 5 o'clock. We'll see you and Mia there." Just like that. As if nothing had happened. No mention of Thanksgiving. No acknowledgement of Aaron's comment. No apology. Nothing. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I showed it to Mia and asked what she wanted to do. She shrugged. "Will Aunt Melanie be there?" she asked. I nodded. "Will he?" She didn't even say Aaron's name. Just he. Another nod. Mia looked down at the birdhouse, wiped her brush on a napkin, and said, "Then can we have our own Christmas Eve? Like in Paris?" I smiled. "Absolutely." So I replied to my mom. "Me. Thanks, but Mia and I have our own plans this year." 2 minutes later, the phone rang. I didn't answer. She didn't leave a voicemail. That was when things started escalating. It began subtly. My aunt called to check in and said, "Your mom's been really hurt, you know. She says she doesn't even know what she did wrong." Then a cousin I hadn't spoken to in months messaged me on Instagram saying, "Hey, maybe you should try to talk things out with Aaron. You guys are brothers after all." It was all so orchestrated. Like I was being put on trial without even knowing the charges. And while they whispered about healing the family, they were still icing Mia out like she didn't exist. I only found out what really happened at the Christmas Eve dinner because my cousin Jenna sent me a photo. It was a picture of all the grandkids, Aaron's 3 and my younger sister's twins, sitting in front of the fireplace in matching red pajamas, each holding what looked like personalized gift bags from my mom. They were all grinning, surrounded by gifts. I counted at least 10 each. Tablets, board games, designer sneakers, even concert tickets for Aaron's oldest. And Mia? She wasn't mentioned. Not once. No stocking. No card. Not even a generic, "we missed you" gift. Nothing. When I showed Mia the photo, she didn't say a word. She just turned the birdhouse around and started painting again. But I saw her jaw tighten. I saw the way she blinked more than usual. Later that night, I found the brush she'd used lying on the bathroom counter, its bristles trimmed off, soaked in paint water. It was one of her favorites. The next day, we spent Christmas morning opening gifts in our living room. I'd gone all out. New paints, a real easel, tickets to a Broadway show next summer, even a signed print from one of her favorite children's book illustrators. She loved it. She was beaming. But I could still feel it, the weight of being excluded. It lingered like smoke after a fire. Then came New Year's Eve. I wasn't planning to go to the family party, obviously. But my dad, of all people, reached out. He asked me to stop by. Just for an hour, just to say hi. Said he missed me. That it was time to move on. And I'll admit it, part of me wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that maybe someone in that house had finally realized how wrong they'd been. So I said okay, just for a bit. I dressed Mia up in her sparkly blue dress, curled her hair. She looked like a winter princess. When we walked into my parents' house, the party was already in full swing. Laughter, music, champagne flutes clinking. People smiled when they saw us. My dad gave me a quick side hug. My mom said, "Oh good, you made it," like we were late to a dentist appointment. Then we found Aaron. He was holding court in the living room, surrounded by a few of his friends and cousins, showing off some new drone he got for Christmas. When he saw Mia, his smile flickered for a split second. Then he said, loud enough for the group to hear, "Well, look who finally decided to show up. The world travelers." A few people chuckled. I forced a smile. Mia clutched my hand tighter. I bent down and whispered, "We'll only stay for 20 minutes. Promise." She nodded. Then it happened. We were all in the living room when my mom brought out a special game for the kids, a family trivia game. Questions about grandparents, traditions, funny memories. I thought it was harmless enough. Mia even smiled when the first question was about Grandpa's favorite dessert. But then my mom asked a question about which grandchild was born first. Mia raised her hand. "Me." Aaron snorted. "Actually, that would be Ava. Real grandchild, remember?" The room went dead silent. I turned to him, my vision blurring with heat. "What did you just say?" He shrugged, raising his hands. "I mean, technically she's not." I stepped forward. "Don't. Finish that sentence." Mia was already moving toward the hallway. Her little shoes clicked softly against the hardwood as she slipped away, trying to hide the tears I knew were coming. My mom finally stepped in. "Aaron, that's enough." But Aaron just smirked. "I'm not saying anything untrue. She's not even. She's my daughter." My voice cracked. Loud. Final. Everyone went quiet. My mom, cheeks flushed, said, "Jacob, please don't make a scene." That was it. I looked at her, then at my dad. Neither of them moved. Neither of them looked me in the eye. I turned and walked down the hall, found Mia sitting on the bottom step, eyes red and lip trembling. "We're leaving," I said gently. She nodded. We didn't say goodbye. I didn't even take her coat off when we got home. I just wrapped her in a blanket and let her fall asleep in my lap while we watched the fireworks on TV. And while she slept, I sat there, heart pounding with something I hadn't felt in a long time. Rage. Cold, clear, focused rage. That was the moment something snapped in me. Because until then, I had kept trying, kept hoping, kept believing that maybe, somehow, if I showed up enough, gave enough, forgave enough, they'd come around. That they'd see Mia the way I saw her. But they never would. Because to them, family was blood. And to me, family is love, loyalty, kindness. Family is earned. And they had lost that privilege. What they didn't know was that I had been keeping receipts, literal and emotional. Every comment, every slight, every photograph Mia wasn't in, every text that pretended she didn't exist. And now, I was done pretending too. Because Aaron had just crossed a line he couldn't uncross. And I had a plan, one they'd never see coming. But first, I needed to make sure Mia knew the truth, not just about our family, but about her worth. I had no idea that things were about to get worse before they got better. That Aaron wasn't finished. That he had one more play, one final insult. That would push me even further. And once he made that move, I stopped holding back. For the first time in years, January didn't feel like a fresh start. It felt like I was digging myself out of a crater I hadn't even realized I'd been living in. The fallout from that New Year's Eve party clung to everything. Mia was quieter than usual. She still smiled, still asked to paint in the mornings or help me cook, but the spark that lit up when she felt truly safe, that was dimmer now, and I hated it. I hadn't just let my brother hurt her. I let our whole family pretend it wasn't happening. I let them surround her with half smiles and fake hugs while they whispered things behind her back or excluded her from their group texts and matching pajama photos. It had become normal to me. That was the part that made me sick. It had become normal. That realization hit hardest one night in mid-January, when Mia brought me a shoebox. She said she wanted to show me her keepsakes. I sat cross-legged on her floor as she opened it, expecting drawings, maybe some beads or pressed flowers. But instead, she pulled out a folded paper and handed it to me. It was a birthday card from 2 years ago, signed by my sister. To Mia, from Aunt Sophie and Uncle Kyle. I remembered that card. I had thought nothing of it at the time, but Mia had saved it, because it was the only thing they gave her that year. She went on, pulling out a crumpled photo I had printed of us at a pumpkin patch, a flyer from her school recital, a pressed daisy I helped her pick last spring. Nothing from my parents. Nothing from Aaron. Nothing from the people who claimed to be family. I sat there, staring at that box, while Mia looked up at me with this expression that was so heartbreakingly hopeful, like she wanted to know if the things she held onto mattered. If she mattered. That night, after she went to bed, I sat in the kitchen and cried for the first time in years. Not the kind of crying where you sniffle into a pillow and pull yourself together 5 minutes later. I mean full body, chest-shaking grief. Grief for the time I'd wasted. For the damage I hadn't seen. For the fact that Mia had been quietly collecting scraps of love and calling them treasure. That was my rock bottom. I didn't want revenge that night. I didn't care about proving anyone wrong. I just wanted to do right by Mia. And that meant more than just protecting her. It meant rebuilding our life from the ground up. So I started quietly, piece by piece. First, I called a therapist. Not for Mia, for me. I needed someone to talk to who wouldn't minimize it, who wouldn't tell me to forgive and forget like so many well-meaning friends had. I needed to unpack years of being the peacekeeper in a family that only offered peace to the people they favored. And I needed to learn how to stand up for myself without feeling guilty. Then I found a child psychologist for Mia, someone who specialized in adoption, identity, and family trauma. I didn't want her carrying this weight alone. And to my surprise, she was open to it. Nervous at first, but after a couple of sessions, she started coming home with more questions. Hard ones. Brave ones. Do you think Grandma didn't give me presents because I don't look like her? Why does Uncle Aaron say I'm not real if I live with you and you're my real dad? Is there something wrong with me? Every time she asked something like that, I felt like someone was ripping out pieces of my heart with a spoon. But I answered her honestly, carefully. I told her that nothing was wrong with her, that everything was wrong with them, that real families are built with love, not matching DNA. And most importantly, that she never had to earn our place in this world by making herself smaller. And somewhere in those talks, something shifted. I started to see her sit taller, speak louder. One day she even told me, I want to write a letter to Grandma, not because I want her to love me, but because I want to tell her how I feel. That letter was one of the bravest things I've ever read. She didn't ask for gifts. She didn't ask to be included. She just told the truth, that she felt invisible, that it hurt, that she wished they had loved her the way she loved them. We never sent it, but we folded it and kept it in the keepsake box. While we were doing the emotional work, I started making changes in our life, too. I had always worked as a freelance graphic designer, enough to pay the bills, but never enough to really thrive. I'd spent years putting clients first, taking scraps to make time for Mia, turning down opportunities because they clashed with family obligations. But not anymore. I started saying no. No to toxic clients. No to last-minute demands. And when a tech startup I'd done branding work for offered me a retainer contract with flexible hours and full benefits, I said yes without hesitation. The pay was almost triple what I was making before. I upgraded our apartment. Nothing extravagant, just a 2-bedroom with more light, more space, and a tiny backyard where Mia could plant sunflowers if she wanted. I got her a new art desk and filled it with supplies. I let her pick out a wall color and a fuzzy beanbag for reading. I let her have space. And slowly, our world began to feel different. Safer. Quieter. Ours. But not everyone liked that. The more I pulled away from the family, the more they started to notice. Or maybe they'd always noticed, and just assumed I'd come crawling back like always. It started with my mom. She sent a message in March asking if Mia would be attending my dad's birthday party. No apology. No context. Just expectations. I didn't answer. Then Melanie tagged me in a photo of Aaron's kids at a family fun day event with a caption about how some people are too sensitive to appreciate what they have. Still, I said nothing. I thought I could stay above it. That if I focused on Mia, on our healing, I wouldn't care what they did anymore. But then Aaron made his move. It was April. Mia's school held a special person's day event, a kind of hybrid between Grandparents' Day and Career Day. The kids could invite a family member to come talk about their work, or just spend the day doing crafts and reading books. Mia asked me if I could come. I cleared my schedule. I was excited. But when we got there, I saw them. Aaron and Melanie. With Ava. I was confused at first. I thought maybe they were there for one of her cousins who went to the same school. But no, they were in Mia's classroom. Aaron was standing by the art easels, arms crossed, chatting with the teacher like he owned the place. Melanie was snapping photos of Ava painting. Mia froze. She clutched my sleeve and whispered, "Why are they here?" I didn't know, so I asked the teacher. She smiled and said, "Oh." Ava mentioned she wanted her uncle to come since he's in design too. We thought it'd be fun for them to speak together. I blinked. "Uncle?" She nodded. She said she invited her Uncle Aaron, since her own dad might be busy. My jaw clenched. Mia hadn't said that. She would never say that. Aaron inserted himself. He told the school he was Mia's uncle, that she had asked him to come, and no one questioned it. I stood there, numb, while Aaron smirked at me from across the room. He knew exactly what he was doing. This wasn't about Career Day. This was about control. About inserting himself where he didn't belong, in our life. About making Mia feel like he still held the power to define her relationships, to rewrite her story. And that's when I knew. It wasn't enough to walk away. He wasn't going to let us go quietly. And I wasn't going to let him win. Because this wasn't just about hurt feelings anymore. This was about identity. About boundaries. About truth. So I started preparing. I gathered emails. Photos. Messages. Every passive-aggressive comment. Every dismissive text. Every moment where they treated Mia like less. I documented everything. Not for court, but for clarity. For myself. For Mia. For anyone who might try to tell us we were overreacting. And then, I started thinking bigger. Because Aaron thrived in a world where he was always the hero. The charming family man. The successful brother. The fun uncle. He had a reputation. A brand. And I was about to take it all apart. But not with screaming. Not with fists. With facts. With grace. With truth so sharp it couldn't be softened by a smile or hidden behind a chuckle. Because while Aaron and the rest of them spent the last year making Mia feel like an outsider, I had been building her a kingdom, and I was almost ready to show it to the world. It's funny how clarity changes everything. After Aaron hijacked Mia's special person's day, something snapped into focus. Not just my anger, that had been burning quietly for months. No, this was something different. This was clarity with teeth. The kind of realization that whispers, "You're not the one on the outside anymore." Because for the first time, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel like the embarrassed older brother or the problem child trying to justify his presence at the table. I felt like a man who had something they didn't: truth, peace, control. Aaron had tried to step into our life and bend it to his liking, but all he did was light the fuse. And I was more than ready to let it burn. So I began to plan. Slowly. Quietly. I wasn't out for chaos. I wanted precision. I didn't just want revenge. I wanted understanding. I wanted them to feel it. To realize what they had done, not just to me, but to a child who had loved them anyway. I wanted the truth to make its way into the light, not in a dramatic explosion, but like sunlight through a crack in the wall. Undeniable, slow, permanent. And I had the perfect opportunity coming up. Aaron's wife Melanie was planning a legacy family celebration for her mother's 70th birthday. Yes, that was the actual title of the event. It was the kind of party where people wear matching pastel outfits, hire photographers, and give speeches about how strong family bonds are. That kind of party. And the kicker? It was being hosted at my parents' house. Of course it was. Now, normally I would have ignored the invitation. But this time, I RSVP'd. With Mia. And I didn't just accept the invitation. I volunteered to create the official family video montage. That was the key. See, I'd spent years as a freelance designer and video editor. It's how I made a living. Aaron had always mocked it, told people I just made slideshows and logos for Instagram moms. He once even said, "Jacob's job is what you get when you fail art school." But this time, I leaned into it. Oh wow, Melanie had gushed over text. That would be amazing. You can pull old photos, right? From Facebook and stuff. I told her yes. And then I started collecting. For the next 3 weeks, I gathered every digital memory they had ever posted. Family trips, birthdays, holidays, beach days. Every carefully curated photo of Aaron and his kids, my parents and their real grandkids. Family dinners where Mia had been cropped out of the frame, events we weren't invited to. I downloaded it all. And then, quietly, I layered it. Every clip, every image, every perfect family moment. I put it in order. And in between, I inserted reality. A blurry screenshot of Mia's lone gift on Christmas morning. A text from my mom saying, "We just don't have the budget to get her something this year." A freeze frame of Aaron's smirk at Thanksgiving. A clip of Mia's letter to Grandma, voiced over with Mia herself reading it aloud, soft and steady, unaware that I was recording that day. Her voice saying, "I love you anyway, even if you forget me," layered underneath a slideshow of birthday cakes she never received. And then, halfway through the video, I inserted a new section. I called it, "What Makes a Family?" This was where I included us, not in retaliation, but in truth. Footage of our Paris trip. Mia twirling on a balcony overlooking the Eiffel Tower. Her helping me paint the birdhouse on the porch. Her recital performance. Her birthday dinner where the waiters brought out cake while she beamed, laughing so hard she snorted. Pictures of her asleep in my arms after the fireworks on New Year's Eve. And then, I layered in something else. Testimonials. I reached out to people in Mia's life who had shown her kindness. Her teachers, our elderly neighbor who always let her help in the garden, her art mentor from a weekend class. I asked them to send in short clips answering one question. What makes Mia family to you? Their answers were beautiful, honest. One teacher said, "She makes everyone feel seen." The neighbor said, "Family is who you grow roots with, and she's part of mine." Her art mentor said, "I don't know what your brother's definition of family is, but if Mia doesn't count, then it's a useless definition." I made sure the audio was crisp, the lighting soft, the pacing perfect. It wasn't bitter. It wasn't petty. It was surgical. Meanwhile, I made small talk with Melanie about fonts and color schemes, feeding her just enough progress to keep her off my trail. I even asked if she wanted a slow-motion section for her mother's cake cutting. She was thrilled. I knew she'd never preview the full thing. She was too busy coordinating balloons and charcuterie boards. As the event drew closer, I put the final touches on the montage. Then I created a second version. A clean version. No letter, no testimonials, no Mia. Just in case they got suspicious. I wanted control, not chaos. While I worked on the video, I also reached out to my sister Sophie. Now, Sophie and I had never been particularly close. Not because we didn't get along, but because she had always taken a passive role in the family. She didn't like conflict. She'd smile, nod, and keep her distance. But when she heard about what happened at Special Persons Day, she called me. "I'm sorry, Jacob," she said. "I had no idea it had gotten that bad." I told her it wasn't new, just newly visible. She paused, then said, "Let me help." I didn't ask for much. Just one thing. "I need you to be in the room when the video plays," I told her. "And I need you to stand up when it ends." "Okay," she said. "And say one sentence." Now that we've seen what real family looks like, I think it's time we talk about what's been happening to Mia. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "I can do that." It was risky, asking her. But I knew I needed someone from the inside to break the seal. To force the room to acknowledge what they'd spent years ignoring. The night before the party, I sat with Mia in her room. We were painting again. A small canvas this time. Just abstract shapes and colors. She looked up at me and asked, "Will we see them tomorrow?" I nodded. "We will." She thought about it. "Do I have to talk to Uncle Aaron?" "No," I said. "You never have to talk to anyone who makes you feel small." She smiled at that. Then she said something I'll never forget. "I don't want to be invisible anymore." I kissed her forehead. "You won't be. Not ever again." When the day came, I wore a plain gray suit and brought my camera gear like I was just the guy in charge of the slideshow. Melanie greeted us at the door, all pink lipstick and exaggerated hugs. "Oh, Jacob, I knew you'd make it beautiful. You're a lifesaver." Aaron barely looked at me. He was too busy showing off his new watch to my dad. Mia stayed close to me, holding my hand. I kept her near the back of the room when the speeches began. They were exactly what you'd expect: flowery, self-congratulatory, drenched in nostalgia. Aaron gave a whole speech about legacy and what we passed down through our children. I almost laughed. Then it was time for the video. I plugged in the USB drive, clicked play, sat down beside Mia. The lights dimmed, and the truth began to play. The lights dimmed, and for a moment, the room buzzed with polite anticipation. Folding chairs creaked. Champagne glasses clinked. Aaron leaned back smugly with his arm over the back of Melanie's chair, clearly expecting a montage of his carefully curated life. My mother sat front and center, already dabbing her eyes in preparation for the emotional nostalgia. Mia sat next to me, clutching my hand under the table. Then the video began. At first, it was exactly what everyone expected: old home videos of birthday cakes and swimming pools, beach days with wind-blown hair, and Christmas trees stacked with presents. Laughter echoed through the speakers. Aaron's voice appeared often, booming, charismatic, loud. I watched him smirk as his highlight reel played out. His kids hugging Grandma. Ava blowing out candles while everyone cheered. Family vacations. Barbecues. The curated dream. But then, it started to shift. The transitions between clips got longer. The soundtrack softened. The visuals dimmed just slightly, just enough to make people lean in. Then came a freeze frame of one of those Christmas mornings. 10 gifts per child. Matching pajamas. My mom's wide smile. And then a simple cut to a single photo. Mia on that same day, sitting quietly on our couch, holding a small, wrapped box on her lap. She looked happy, because she always tried to be, but next to the extravagance that had just been shown, the contrast was jarring. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Next came screenshots, text messages from my mom. "We just don't have the budget to get her something this year. She's not used to big gifts anyway. Aaron's kids are still young. They need the magic." Then audio. Soft. Almost imperceptible at first. It was Mia's voice, reading her letter to Grandma. "I love you anyway, even if you forget me. I know you didn't mean to. I know you're just busy. I hope next time you see me, you'll remember my name." There was no music. Just her small voice, brave and vulnerable, layered under footage of birthday parties she hadn't been invited to. Holiday dinners where her seat sat empty. Photos of group hugs where she'd been cropped out. You could hear the discomfort settling in the room. Chairs shifted. Throats cleared. My dad stared at the floor. My mom had stopped dabbing her eyes, her tissue frozen in her lap. Then came the testimonies. One after another, faces appeared on the screen. Mia's teacher, speaking clearly. She's thoughtful. She brings snacks for kids who forget theirs. She listens. She creates space. Our neighbor. She helped me plant sunflowers last spring. When they bloomed, she said they reminded her of joy. She is joy. Her art mentor. When people say real family, I always ask, do they show up? Do they stay? Do they choose you? Because Jacob chose Mia. Over and over. And she chose him. That's real. Then the Paris montage rolled in. Soft instrumental music swelling under video of Mia twirling in her dress on the Eiffel Tower balcony, laughing over crepes in the early morning sun, asleep on my shoulder during the boat ride under the city lights. And finally, the last frame. A simple black screen with white text. Family is who shows up. Fade to black. Silence. For a full 10 seconds, no one moved. The air was thick. Heavy. Nobody clapped. Nobody even looked at each other. Then Sophie stood up. Her voice shook slightly, but she raised her chin. "I think now that we've seen what real family looks like, it's time we talk about what's been happening to Mia." She sat back down. The silence deepened. Aaron was the first to speak. Of course. He shot to his feet, his face red. "That video was completely out of line," he snapped. "It was supposed to be about Mom. About legacy. You hijacked it for some pity project." I didn't move. I didn't raise my voice. I just looked at him and said, calmly, "It is about legacy. The kind you're teaching your kids." That shut him up for a second. But Melanie jumped in, defensive as ever. "We didn't know she felt that way. No one ever said anything." "You didn't have to," I replied. "She was in the room. You all just chose not to see her." My mom finally spoke. Her voice was quiet, almost brittle. "You're twisting everything. We've always loved her. Mia looked up at me, and I nodded. She stood. She was nervous, but she stood. I don't need you to love me, she said. I just wanted you to notice me. But it's okay if you don't. Because I have a real dad. And he sees me every day. You could have heard a pin drop. My mother opened her mouth, but my dad, of all people, put a hand on her arm and shook his head. That was the moment I realized even he had finally seen it. We didn't stay long after that. I packed up my laptop, thanked Sophie, and walked out with Mia's hand in mine. No yelling, no chaos, just the quiet dignity of a truth too loud to ignore. But the fallout? That came fast. Melanie posted on Facebook that night about sabotage and family betrayal. She tried to spin the video as a malicious misrepresentation, but too many people had been in that room. The truth was already out. My inbox filled with messages. Cousins I hadn't heard from in years. An uncle who apologized. A niece who sent Mia a handmade card and asked if they could hang out sometime. Not everyone changed, but enough of them saw it. And that was all I needed. As for Aaron, he blocked me on everything, which was fine. I was done talking. My mom tried to call once, but I didn't pick up. She left a voicemail saying she never realized how deep the wounds were, but she also never apologized. Just made it about her pain, not Mia's. So I deleted it, because I don't need her to understand anymore. I just need to protect my daughter. And I am. Every single day. A month after the party, Mia got an award at school for compassion and courage. Her teacher said she'd been standing up for other kids lately, that she helped one little boy with speech issues feel brave enough to read aloud, that she told another girl, "You don't need people to like you to know you're special." I picked her up that day, and she showed me the certificate, beaming. I knelt down and told her, "I am so proud of you." She wrapped her arms around my neck and whispered, "I'm proud of me too." And that was it. That was the moment I knew it had all been worth it. The silence, the heartbreak, the storm, because we came out on the other side. Not just surviving, thriving. They made her feel invisible, so I made sure the world saw her.